Check 1, 2, 3, mic test. How's it sounding over there? Y'all hear me okay? Texas twang in. Hi friends, I'm Byron Stinson, and we were responsible, our team, for taking 5 red heifers to Israel. I have a story to tell that's pretty amazing, and I didn't tell it for 30 years, so I'm going to go ahead and just bare my soul and tell you this story. When I was 13 years old, I was reading from the book of Romans, and I saw in the book, Paul explained to me how we all are made up of both spirit and flesh, and that his spirit wanted him to do what was right, but at the same time, his flesh called him to do things that weren't right. And I really registered with that. 13, 14-year-old boys can register with that because I really wanted to be a righteous person and do what was right. If you go from Romans 7, 8, and 9, you started getting in when Paul starts telling us as Gentiles that he was sent to explain to us everything about Abraham, the promises of God, the basis of everything that we should believe in was all done through the Jewish people. And then Paul explains that he would gladly give up his eternal soul and go to hell forever if he could help his Jewish fathers because he loved them. And at that time, while I'm reading this at 13, 14 years of age, I just felt in my heart, not in my brain, but in my heart, I felt like, wow, man, I'd really like to help the Jewish people. And right then, as if sitting next to me on the bed, I heard Father God say, I'm going to use him with the Jewish people. And it wasn't out loud, but yet it was as if it was out loud. It's as plain as what I'm saying to you right now. And I heard it. And I'm stunned as I looked to my left as I heard it. And then to my right, I heard another voice, and it said, well, he'll be a failure because he's full of lust and sin of all kinds, and he won't be able to help you at all. And that was the end of the conversation, and no one was in my room but me. But I knew I'd heard this conversation. I didn't tell my mother, I didn't tell my father, I didn't tell any of my friends, I didn't tell my teachers, I didn't tell my pastor. I didn't tell anyone that I had heard that because just like you right now, they would think, well, that guy's crazy, because when you start hearing those things, you must be going crazy. Fast forward only 30 years. I'm now 43. I still have never told anyone about this story. I'm a small businessman in Texas. I still love the Lord. I've studied the Bible carefully my whole life, and now I'm getting married to my best friend, Tammy. And I decide, I know that was real, and I have to tell her, because she knows everything about me, but she has not heard that. No one's heard that. So I looked at my soon-to-be wife next week, looked her in the face, and I said, listen, I need to tell you a story. And I just told her what I just told you. And I kind of expected she's going to say, well, Byron, that's pretty crazy, but let's just go on and not worry about that. But instead, she looked me dead in the eye. She said, wow, that's going to happen. I said, Tammy, do you think so? I mean, I'm 43, and I don't even know any Jewish people. I've never been to Israel. I've read all about the return of the Jewish people that were exiled for 2,000 years. I've seen that every single prophet said that they will be returned to the land, and I know they were returned to the land. And I know the stories are true, but yet, how could it be that I would be, I'm just a guy from Texas. I even sound funny. Why would he use me with the Jewish people? But she looked me in the eye and she said, it's going to happen. And sure enough, then it started happening. So in June of 2021, I got a telephone call, and it was from my dear friend in Israel, Rabbi Itzhak Mamo. There had been a meeting of many rabbis, and they were discussing the need for the ceremony of the red heifer. As they looked at it, they see in Numbers 19, the actual verse says, say unto Israel, bring us a red heifer. So they reached out to me, and they said, Byron, we believe in the United States there could be this perfect red cow. So if you could find us this one cow and bring it, we would really appreciate that. I went to my rancher friends and we discussed what kind of breeds might be all red. So we went, they said, Byron, the red Angus is one of the reddest and a very gentle cow. And then you also got the Santa Gertrudis, and you have a Simmental brand. You have others that might work out. And so we started looking for those registered herds that have that particular brand. I reached out to a son of mine who's very technically savvy, and I said, listen, I need to know every rancher I can get hold of in the United States. So he designed a bot, and the bot goes and hunts around and it finds every name of every rancher, their address, their telephone number, and we got all that information from these ranchers. Then we had our tech people design a special tool that would actually send a little small text just saying, we're looking for the perfect red heifer, call us if you got it. And we sent that to everybody. And then we sent out emails to everybody. And then we got on the phone and called some people. But the biggest thing that really worked was we put together a flyer that we sent to their mailboxes. Turns out Texas ranchers, they really like to go to their mailbox and read that more than anything else. That's just a little tip if you're marketing. And I started hearing from some ranchers that said, I think we have the perfect red heifer. We drove, we went around Texas, we talked to people in Missouri, we talked to people all over the United States. We got pictures of cows, and we could tell by some of the pictures they weren't all red. But then finally we were able to locate a couple of ranches. One was the Urbanaski Ranch, which had Santa Gertrudis cows down by Houston. And we got down there, sure enough, they had a couple of calves that we could look at that looked all red. And then after that, we got to a very special friend of mine, Mr. Ty Davenport in Rockfall, Texas. The neat thing about Ty is Ty had started his Red Angus herd, and the reason he wanted it is because he loved the verse of Numbers 19 about the red heifer, and he just thought, I'll raise up red heifers because it's in the Bible. And so sure enough, when we get there, he has little red calves laying all over the field. Now here's the thing about cows and animals. They normally are bred so they'll have their babies in the spring or they'll have their babies in the fall. So we were in the fall of 21 when we're getting this second group that's being born, but Ty didn't know about us soon enough, and he'd already had a lot of them born, and the day they're born, he'd tag them. You see, that's the biggest challenge of all, is it can't have a blemish, it can't have a scar that doesn't heal, and the tag in the ear immediately when these small calves are born, they're blemished. So it's full of little red cows that are perfect, but they're all tagged. So Ty and some of the other team members, we got under a tree, and we just said, you know, Lord, if it's your will, we're here looking for a red heifer. Could you give us one? We got back in Ty's four-wheel drive Polaris, and we drove through the brush, and in less than 10 minutes we came up on a baby that had only been born minutes before, laying next to its mother. And that was our first red heifer from Ty's cows right there. And we celebrated in the fields. We knew the Lord had delivered this one. And we thought that was it. We have Santa Gertrudis from Houston. We have one on Ty's ranch. So the next day I called Ty back and said, this is great. We're gonna see about getting some rabbis to fly in, to do the inspections, make sure they're good. He said, well, I got some news for you. But what's the news, Ty? I had more of them. Ty didn't have many bull calves that fall. He just had a lot of heifers. And before it was over, Ty had 19 red Angus, beautiful red heifers, and we had 2 more Santa Gertrudis. We started out to see if we could find 7. God said, no, I'll just go ahead and give you 3 times 7, 21. And so now we had 21 red heifers. Next step, we need them inspected. We've looked at them and we understand what we're looking for. If you ever need to inspect a red heifer, I'll give you a little tip. There's only 4 colors in the Bible that you have to worry about. It's red, it's white, it's black, and it's green. Now the green ones are really rare. I haven't found one yet, so you can take that out. So now you've got red, white, and you got black. So when you look at a hare, you don't have to say, is it red? You have to say, is it white? It's not white. Is it black? It's not black. There's only one more color. That's red. It's a variation. There's light red, there's dark red, there's all kinds of red. If it's not black, it's not white, it's red. Okay, that helped a lot once I understood that. And it hadn't been done in 2,200 years when we started doing this, so it took a little bit for our brains to figure this out. So the rabbis came in, and they got there, and guess what happened the day they got there to inspect the cows? Rainy. Now, you may not have ever been in a cow lot when it's raining, but I'm going to tell you, it's not a fun thing when you're going to get under cows and check and see if they have any black or white hair. But that's exactly where my rabbi friends went. They dove right in there, and they're inspecting away. And then in a minute, they turn to me and they say, we got a big problem. I said, what's the matter? You got 21 of them. It takes us 30 minutes, an hour to inspect one. We can't get to 21. I said, well, let's just pick the best 8 or 9. And let's just go with that. So that's what we did. We sent some of them back to their moms, and we inspected the 8 or 9. They were all good, and we set them to the side. And then the hope was to send us 9 cows to Israel. Now we got to get them to Israel. We think, let's run them down to Houston. We'll put them on a plane. 14 hours later, they'll be sitting in Israel. Everything's fixed. Unfortunately, there's a law. If you're a human, you want to fly for 24 hours, that's fine. If you're an animal, you can only fly up to 10 hours. That's the maximum. You must set the cow on the ground, or the dog or the cat or whatever, and it has to rest 24 hours before you can fly it another 10 hours. And that's the rule of the skies. So they couldn't go from Houston. So now we're like, well, what are we going to do? Well, we can fly them into Amsterdam, which goes within the 10 hours. We'll rest them there for 10 hours, put them back on the plane, and we'll go straight into Israel. So now you have to work with the Israeli government, you have to work with the government in Amsterdam, you have to work with the U.S. government, and that's going to be easy to get all those different people to work together. It's not. It's just red tape on every side, and the smallest little thing makes it break. And so even though we beat ourselves to death trying to do that, it just wasn't going to work. So then we realized the only thing that's going to work is a direct flight into Tel Aviv from New York. So we hired cowboys and we took it slow, but we carefully took the cows to New York, and we're planning on putting them on a flight to go straight to Tel Aviv. But by the time we got them there, it got a little hotter, and we were about to get them on the flight, and they said, wait a minute, there is a rule against bringing livestock from the United States into Israel. We're not allowed to bring livestock in. Why? Well, it's just one of the rules we have between the governments. So you can't bring livestock in here. So what we found out and what we thought about was if you have up to 5 pets, whether it be a dog, cat, or whatever, you can do that legally and import them into Israel. And they absolutely were our pets by then. So now we've got 5 pets, and they're in New York, and we're ready to put them on a plane. Another problem pops up. You've got to have insurance on these. What kind of insurance? Well, if one of them dies in flight, you have to be able to dispose of the animal when it gets here. You have to dispose of the crate, and all this has to be done. So we need insurance to make sure all that's taken care of. Well, the problem there is there's no livestock like this coming from the United States, so there's no actuaries have figured out how much that would be. So we asked the insurance company, well, how much do you charge to come in from anywhere else? They said, well, it's usually about $1 to $2 per cow. Okay, well, charge us $10 a cow and give us a license. No. We must go to the actuaries, and they have to spend their time, and they have to decide what the right price is on this flight. So a month later, waiting for that price, we finally got it back, and I think it was like $1.25 per cow. So that took us a month and a half. Now we're moving into late July, and it's hot. So we go out to put the cows on American Airlines 777 cruise liner, and they say, nope, you can't do it, because the temperature in Tel Aviv is above 89 degrees today. And with the cow's heat inside the airplane, it could set off a sensor, and the pilots might think there's a fire. And so you can't take them because it's too hot. It has to be under 89 degrees. The rest of July it didn't go under 89. The rest of August it didn't go under 89. And finally, on I believe it was September the 15th, I believe is the date in New York, finally we were given the go-ahead, and we were able to put the cows once again on the airliner and then fly them directly to Tel Aviv. We quickly reached out to Temple Mountain Institute and to Israel 365 and other networks that share the good news of the cow coming in, and we had a celebration at the airport, and we danced at the airport. The dock workers stopped working and came over and danced with us. We had a great time as the cows made it. They were just as docile as they could be. They were perfectly healthy. So when the cows left the airport, they were taken directly to a quarantine spot to be held for a few days, and we had to do it quickly because we were right up against the fall holidays. We were able to keep them there for 12 days, and they were healthy and good. From there, we moved them down to a location close to Gilgal, which is significant to me because the first place that the children of Israel coming from slavery into the land was at Gilgal, and would have been at Gilgal that the tabernacle tent and the Ark of the Covenant was set up right there, and they would have done a red heifer ceremony there at Gilgal. So we had our cows there. From there, we move our cows up to Shiloh. Once again, significant because this is the place where the tabernacle tent was set up and worshiped in for 370 years. And there would have been a red heifer ceremony at Shiloh. So now the cows today, they're still at Shiloh. Their next trip, if the Lord is ready and if it's the right timing, is for them to be able to go to the Mount of Olives to a special piece of land. And we may wind up using that piece of land for the ceremony. My job was to hunt for them, work to get them there, and now my job is the same as your job. We have one job, and that is to love our fathers of faith.